International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
One of the concerns I've had is that there's just not enough information, documentation about what African Americans have accomplished, which is the reason why I wrote my book, African Americans of San Francisco. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this particular style of a book. It's printed by Arcadia Publishing Company, and it's a book of images. It shows lots of photographs of very important people in San Francisco, our people, and who arrived here in San Francisco as early as in the 1840s. And so what I attempted to do in my book was to document the black presence in San Francisco, our black leadership. One of the things that I realized, and which drove me to want to write this book, is that as an educator, I'm a high school teacher and I teach at the community college level, and as an educator, I could never find our pictures of our famous people in the history books. I couldn't find anything about us in the history books, and it just disturbed me. And my field of study is literature, so as I'm pursuing my graduate degree in literature, you know, I have to read about dead white men. I don't want to read about dead white men. I don't find that interesting. Either they're slaveholders, or they're bounty hunters, or they're Europeans who discovered something. But we were all a part of this, and there's no documentation of us in the books whatsoever. And as a teacher, I've got to teach dead white men. I don't want to teach that either. And so I decided that, okay, I guess I'll have to go write my book about our people. And I'll be honest with you, that's what we all have to do. And I'm glad to see my brothers and sisters out here who also wrote. You know, we have to document our history. We cannot wait for someone else to do it for us, because believe me, as you guys all know, they won't do it. They won't do it. And what's really frightening, what is so frightening, and I'm seeing this in literature and in history, but as time progresses, our contribution is minimized. They have rewritten history. I believe in 20 years from now, they'll say that slavery never happened the way we know that it happened. They're rewriting our history, and it's very, very sad. I'm also very honored to be here today on the day that Langston Hughes wrote I Sing a River. Was that the poem? Yeah. Because I so happen to love that poem, and I require my high school students to read it every year. And so this is Langston Hughes' special day, and I'm happy about that. Greenboro 4, I want you to know I require my sophomores to read. Now that's in our literature books, but I make them read that particular nonfiction writings about what happened in North Carolina in Greenboro 4. And that's really, really an important piece for young people to understand, that there were college students that put their lives on the line, along with many, many other people, and who were very active in the civil rights movement. So I'm really honored that this is a very special day. To tell you a little bit about my book, and then after I just explain a little bit about my book, I want you to know I have copies for anyone who would like to have a copy of the book, and also in the end I'll take questions from you too, because I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, because I won't be able to tell you everything about the book. But let me just, first of all, let me say I am so honored that when I presented the book, it came out last January, and when I presented at one of the churches, I was so honored when about maybe 7 or 8 middle school and high school kids were sitting on the floor, the cement outside of First AME Zion Church, reading my book. And I'm having a book signing, and after I sign books and I'm packing up, I look around, and they're out on the cement, on the driveway, it was like a covered driveway area, sitting on the ground reading. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'm a high school teacher. We can't get kids to read anything. And sometimes our kids, I'm like, oh my gosh. But the kids grab this book, and the reason they like it is because there are lots of pictures. This book has over 200 photographs in the book. And with each photograph, I have captions to give the history. And what I tried to do was just capture the essence of the historical significance of these people. It starts with the gold rush. So I began with some of the people who were here. Dr. John Jameson Moore, who was a slave, was freed, and then began to walk across America teaching the AME, philosophy, and religion. And he was a free man. He just decided that that's what he wanted to do. And there were others. There were newspaper men. And before I get to newspaper men, we have, oh, and can I have my glasses on? So we have Mr. Coffey and Alvin Coffey. And Alvin Coffey, he was a slave. He was brought here by his slave master from someplace in the South. And when he arrived and worked in the mines, he was very smart. He decided to pocket half of the earnings because he was given a little bit of money, but he put it in his pocket. And then he rented himself out after hours to white people out there in the mines. He rented himself out and he made money off of them. And when he had enough money, he bought his freedom. He bought his freedom. And I had a chance to talk to someone who knew a lot about the Sutter mines and the black miners, and they had their own little area called, I think it was called Negro Mine, oh no, Negro Bar. It was called Negro Bar. And that was the place where only the black miners could mine, but there was a lot of gold there. So he mined the Negro Bar area, and he was able to buy the freedom of his family. And they were enslaved someplace in the South, and he brought his wife and children out here, and then his daughters settled in San Francisco. And he is actually the only black man, this is amazing, the only black man, I was told, by the Pioneer Museum here in San Francisco, but Alvin Coffey is the only black man documented in the museum. Now, you know there are more black pioneers here. I mean, how can that be? I don't understand it. Yes.
We're one.
Okay.
Right here in the 1860s.
Yeah, but they told me, well, that they only have, when I went to get information about the pioneers, I had to go all over the state of California to get these 180 photographs. And so, okay, and so I'm going to give you a chance to ask questions now, if you would like. I've got a lot to say, but we'll hear from you.
Can you just go through some of the historical periods real quickly?
Okay, so the yes, I can very quickly. The historical periods, I start with 1840 to the 1900s, and that covers the black pioneers, our businessmen and women, our newspaper men and women who started, our performers in San Francisco. In 1900 to 1950, the war years, migration, employment opportunities, the labor movement of San Francisco's emerging black community. The 1950 to 1980, reshaping American communities. That has to do with the redevelopment time period, urban renewal. Okay.
And how about Dr. Hare?
And I also want to say, yes, and I covered Dr. Hare and Dr. Julia Hare in my book, too. Yes, the San Francisco student movement.
Yes, I have a question. I'd like to know, do you cover Jeremiah B. Sanderson in your book?
I sure
and
do.
Do you have
I
a
have
picture?
Yes, I
and
have
can you
a
say a
picture of
word
him.
or two about Jeremiah B.
Yes,
Sanderson?
I do. You'll find him. Jeremiah Sanderson was he was the second black teacher at the colored school that was housed at St. Cyprian's Church. And yes, he is in my book.
Do you have a picture of him?
Yes, I have a picture in my book. I got the picture at the library, the state library.
Was California named after a black woman?
Yes, it was, and that's not in my book, but it was, and you can find a photograph of her, I think, at the Wells Fargo Bank.
Okay, thank you.
A huge mural.
Which Wells Fargo Bank?
It's a central one downtown here, but you can just Google it, and it's at the huge. It's on the wall.
She said Montgomery.
Oh, okay, Montgomery. Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.